Hello, New York. I'm Miwa Messer. I'm the producer and host of Poured Over, and it is my great good fortune to be with Lily King. We have been trying to do this event for about 10 years. We couldn't because we didn't have a show for a minute. There was that. And then, life got big and weird, and we were not always in the same place at the same time. And now we have Heart the Lover, which is one of the best books that any of us in this space have read in the last, pick a number of years. But it is spectacular, this book. So, more importantly, some of you might remember The Pleasing Hour, which was Lily's debut, 1999. Okay, raise your hands if you read Pleasing. Okay, thank you. It also happened to win a little prize called the Discover Great New Writers Prize. I think maybe we called it the Discover Awards. I should know this. But it was a B&N award, and Lily took home a check, and we sold and continue to sell quite a lot of copies of Pleasing Hour. And then there was, wait for it, the book between Father of the Rain. Why am I blanking on the second novel? The English Teacher. I'm sorry. Usually I have this on the... So we go from The Pleasing Hour to The English Teacher to Father of the Rain. And then there's a novel that brought sort of a new readership to you, Euphoria. And then we get the story collection. No?
Writers and Lovers.
Writers and Lovers. Oh, Writers and Lovers and then the story collection. Okay. So Writers and Lovers, raise your hands if you read Writers and Lovers. Okay, right.
Wow.
And then Heart the Lover. And the voice, right? Like when you're reading Lily and you get that voice, right? And you just hand yourself over to the voice on the page. And if I remember correctly, the voice starts because you know the emotional arc of the story before you know anything else, right?
That's exactly right.
Okay. So how do we get, this body of work, right? If you haven't read all of the novels, this would be the winter to do it. I'm just saying. But you start with the emotional arc. And then the characters follow,
So I have the characters, and I know the situation, and once I know the situation,
right.
I sort of know where she is on the emotional arc. And then I know where I want to get her. And I know that it's going to be an arc, and I'm not sure exactly what's going to happen to what the plot points are going to be to follow that arc and then get her to where I want her, and that's sort of the great mystery and exploration that I have to do while I'm writing the book.
Okay. So Jordan, as in Jordan Baker, yes, she plays golf. She gets this nickname bestowed on her by a couple of boys in her college class. And suddenly Jordan feels like she's no longer an outsider. She feels like, hey, I have arrived because these boys have given me a nickname. It is the 80s after all. And we are not in a campus novel. Like, let's be clear, right? This is not a campus novel. Can we agree this is not a campus novel? But she is familiar in a way... Because I did read the manuscript blind. I didn't know, I had a title and I knew it was Lily, and I was like, okay, I'm game. But the voice, right? There's that Lily King, very kind of knowing voice, a little wry, a little arched eyebrow thing happening. But also, Jordan doesn't know what Jordan doesn't know. And that's kind of the fun, watching her figure out. There are these two boys. We have this love triangle. Okay, Yash. Do we have Yash fans? Okay, there we go. Sam? Okay. Just checking. It's okay if you don't have an opinion, but I'm just curious. Who shows up first, though, after Jordan? Which boy shows up first for you as you're writing?
They show up together.
Okay.
Yeah, I knew they would show up together. And part of her meeting them... her journey begins when she sees sort of their intellectual ambition and really their academic privilege because they're male and what they have been given. They've been given a house. They've been given all kinds of perks from their male professors, and she's sort of, as you were saying, she's awakening to that. She's awakening to her own intellectual ambitions and desires, and also sort of her slightly second-class citizen
Right.
situation that she has been in on that campus, that she then has to navigate and kind of correct for.
I got very, very frustrated with Sam long before I got frustrated with Yash. That does not necessarily mean I am Team Yash. I just want to be clear about that. I just have many opinions about many things. The boys, though, and I guess I do have to refer them. They're not young men. They are boys. Like,
Yeah, I
they
mean,
are
they're
not
on the
fully
cusp.
developed.
They're very
not fully
cuspy.
developed. But I understood. I think I understood from minute one why Jordan was where she was, right? Like the push and the pull. The way you write about desire, the way you write about seduction, there's this sort of... You've got the distance of nostalgia, right? But then you've got this raised eyebrow at all times. And I don't know if that's like a New England thing. I would like to claim that as a New England thing, I will be honest. I don't know if that's a New England thing or if that's you've written now 7 books, 8 books. I should
7.
7. Okay. I mean, is that something that develops with time, or is that something that was just inherent to this book, where it was just kind of, we're following this girl, we're watching this girl, we're watching the interactions with these boys? Does that belong straight to Heart the Lover, or does it belong to the body of work?
I think that it probably belongs to the body of work. I don't feel like the first section is nostalgic. You know, it's first
Right.
person, present tense. I did write it first. The first time I wrote those first scenes, they were in the past tense and they were nostalgic. And they were
Right.
very much kind of, you know, I don't remember, blah, 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 and all that kind of stuff. And it was much more looking back. And then I realized, I don't need that. I just want to be right, immediate, present. And, you know, the raising of the eyebrow thing, I don't really see that.
Okay.
I think it's
That's fair.
just probably something in me and probably from my family. And I don't even realize that it's there, you know, like some sort of weird tick.
I think it's more than a tick. I knew I would always write about you someday. I mean, how much of a linear writer are you? I mean, are you starting, like, was that line there? I mean, I will tell you,
yeah.
in terms of social media, it was a great line to have. We threw it out to the stores and we were like, go run. And they did. It was great.
Yeah, it's you knew I'd write a book
Okay,
about you
you knew
someday.
I'd write about- okay.
And I did not get it right away. I wrote, the very first thing I wrote was that first scene of the professor reading her thing out
Okay.
loud and them looking at her,
Right.
noticing her for the first time in
Right.
the class, the two smart guys. And I'm trying to think. I maybe wrote probably 20 or 30 pages. And then, I don't know, that came to me, and then I didn't know what to do with it. And at first, I kind of was going to be the beginning of another section. It was going to be at the beginning of this, and then I took it away. And then when I gave it to my editor, who's right over there, she didn't see it for the first full draft, nor my agent.
Okay.
And then I thought it was gone. I thought it was one of those kill your darlings things.
Yeah.
And then I really had to kill it. And then I was like, I'm not going to kill it. I don't kill my darlings. I bring them back. And so I brought it back, and I just found a place for it.
So, audience question 2, can you talk about the title, Heart the Lover?
Yes, I can. It's a strange title, and it doesn't make much sense until you know that it's from a card game. And Heart the Lover is the king of hearts in the card game that they play. And this is a game. I was just, you know, writing along, and she comes over for pizza. And what do they do after pizza? Well, they play cards, because in my novels they always play cards. And I didn't want it to be like hearts or spades or the kind of typical things that you play in college. And so I thought of this game that dear friends of ours, Joss and Electa, and their kids taught us when my kids were young. And we've been playing it ever since. We still play it. My kids are 24 and 26 now, and we still play it avidly. And it's called Sir Hinkum Funny Buster. And it's kind of a combination between Old Maid and Go Fish. And you collect families, but it can kind of get kind of cutthroat because you can fake people out. And and you can't, if you get a card, if you touch it before you say thank you, you lose it. Anyway, I put it in there, and I kind of thought, well, I'll take it out eventually, and then I didn't take it out, and because this card, Heart the Lover, just took on more and more meaning, and it kind of snowballed. And then because they're word people, language people, they play with this concept of Heart the Lover, and so it gets used. And then the card game, we jump 21 years, and then in a completely different context, she's playing the card game again. And I'm very interested in the way the past rubs up against the present, and that kind of tension and feeling of that. And the card game really gave me a lot of opportunities to do that.
Without being sentimental. I mean, that's one of the things that when I'm reading you and I'm bouncing back in time with you, you're never precious about, and I'm not good with saccharine, I'm not good with sentimental. And there's always just you hit on these tiny moments, right? These tiny details where I have to stop as the reader and just sit with something for a second. And even at first, because I didn't know where you were going with the card game at first. And I was like, okay, I'm going to trust, right? This is what we do when we trust. And I'm really not good at card games. Like they're just not.
Nor is my editor,
yeah,
Elizabeth.
But if I take the card game and stay with the language, right? And just the language and these three people, even if I'm mad at Sam, because I think really, I got really invested in how they were using the shorthand of the game as their relationship sort of changed and mutated and everything else. And I mean, first love, right? Like, or young love, I should say, not first love. You can sort of come at it from that very traditional, everything's going to get blown up. You don't know what you're getting into. Somehow we all survive our 20s. And I didn't know where we were going to go. I really didn't. And then we get that first time jump. Are you writing this in a linear fashion as you go, or is this something that you're sort of puzzling together? Because again, if you're grounded in the emotional arc, right, time becomes a little loose.
Yeah, no, first of all, I don't want the reader ever to know where we're going.
Okay.
You know, that is not my interest.
Yep.
I don't want to leave breadcrumbs along the way. I want there to be, you know, shock and surprise and that kind of thing. And to go back to details, I'm just really only interested in the little moments.
Right.
I mean, that's what I write for. Like when I have an idea, it's always a little moment. And I write sometimes I write big moments just to get to the little moment, you know, because that's where, for me, like my interest lives and I don't know, it's where the people kind of come alive for me. And in terms of the structure, I knew the minute I started writing that first college scene, I knew we were going to take a big leap, and I really thought that this college part was just going to be 20 or 30 pages, like a little bit of backstory, and then the rest of the novel would be where they end up in the third. But that didn't happen because I just got carried away, and I was having fun, and I didn't want to leave because part 3 is not so fun.
It's not so fun, but there is a postcard on a bathroom wall.
Yeah. Well, that's part 2. And part 2 didn't exist. First, I had college, and then I had part 3, which was part 2. And and I had this little tiny prologue of them climbing the tree, but they don't go anywhere because I was. That was the classic thing. There's always something in my novels that I don't want to write, and I will not write, and I will not write, and then at the very last minute, I have to write it. And it's so clear I have to write it, and so that's what happened with that. I did not want them to go back home after climbing the tree. And I just couldn't imagine bringing him back there to that house. And so I didn't have that. I just had that little prologue. And that's how my agent and my editor saw it. And then when I started doing revisions, I kept on like trying to make that's what was the second part in that one place at the end work, and I couldn't, and it kept on being flat, and it kept on I was kept on reading it and being like, why is she there? Why is she there? And then I'm sorry if you've heard this before, because this is a story I tell a lot. And I know, Elizabeth, you don't love it when I tell it, but what happened was I had 12 days to go before I had to hand in the very final draft before the novel was going into production. And I sat on the couch, and my husband was doing an erg. It was in the middle of winter in Maine, and he was rowing on his erg machine. And he looked at me. He's like, "So what's wrong?" And I'm like, "I cannot make this work." And he said, I knew what he was going to say. I knew he was going to say what he'd been saying for a year, which is what he got from a book called Plot and Structure, written by a screenplay writer. And he said, she needs to go there with a secret. And I was like, for a year I'd been like, there is no secret. Stop saying that. Stop giving me your little tips from the screenplay writer thing. And I really honestly kept on saying there's no fucking secret. And then, but that moment, with 12 days to go, I was like, fine. And I walked away. I walked into my study, and I opened up the last page of the first section, and I changed 5 lines, and I had the secret. And then I had 11 days to rewrite the entire rest of the book.
Right.
And so, see, look at Elizabeth. Okay, not the entire rest of the book, but honestly, I had to weave in a lot of stuff, as you can imagine. And so then I had to take that little tiny climbing the tree, and I had to put it in the middle. And then I had to add all of this backstory, and like not backstory, but stuff. And then of course, she's like, "What are you doing here? What are you doing here?" And and what do you know? And that kind of thing. And all of that happens in the second part. And then of course she goes where she goes in the third part with, a whole different kind of set of questions and answers. It changed everything, and it gave that third part the engine that it desperately needed. So that's how the structure came about.
And this is where the bookseller goes, yay, and the editor can continue to roll her eyes in the corner. No, but that momentum, right? There's this idea that in literary novels or literary short stories, nothing ever happens. No, seriously, right? Like, how many times has someone said, "Oh, the sentences are pretty, right, but nothing happens"? And I'm like, well, actually, the whole purpose of a novel, right, is to show you the interiority of a character. We get to do stuff in novels and experience things in novels that we don't get in other forms of art, right? And I kind of love the idea that you had to tear it apart and rebuild the whole thing in 12 days. I'm like, yep, that's someone who's written a lot of books. But it also does make me think of something you said in an earlier interview where you say each of the books is in response to the thing that came before. So like Father of the Rain gets us to Euphoria, which is a book that the first time I read it, I think I read it, well, in like a couple of hours. I know I canceled dinner plans on someone, and people in my life are used to me doing this, but and I just remember being completely shocked that this was a novel I'd read by the same author of The Pleasing Hour. And again, there's a similarity in voice, but like the canvas has changed entirely. Like suddenly we're in the 30s and we're in New Guinea, and what? And it's great, and the payoff was terrific. But I'm wondering if Euphoria, you get to Euphoria because of Father of the Rain, are we with Heart the Lover because of 5 Days in Winter, or because of Writers and Lovers? I mean,
no, it's because of the political murder mystery that I wrote.
Oh, right,
after Writers and Lovers.
The terrible.
And 5
you were
Tuesday.
bored at 90 pages, right?
I was.
Oh,
I hit a
good.
brick wall. Like literally, I just could not go on, and I did not want to go on. And so this novel is a response to the disaster of that novel that no one's ever seen and never will.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
And so I had put that out of my mind, actually.
And so it is funny because it, then it kind of looks, and feels a little bit like Writers and Lovers. There's obviously a connection between them.
Right.
And It was like a rebound.
Okay, rebound I get. But how do you write about love in a way that isn't treacly, that isn't sentimental, that isn't like you have a thing. You do this thing, and I should have a better word than you do this thing. But you do this thing on the page, right, where we're experiencing all of this with the regardless of which book it is, right? Like, I mean, we're so deep in it, and we're watching people behave badly, right? Like that is honestly part of the fun of reading one of Lily's. Not like someone's going to behave badly. Someone, maybe more than one person, but someone's behaving badly, and we get to be in it, and yet you are never sentimental while you're doing. And it is kind of amazing because it would be an easy way to sort of slip into. Or maybe sentimentality and nostalgia go hand in hand in a way that it does not. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, I don't like reading things that are sentimental, so I try not to write what I don't like. It also, I feel like a lot of my relationships are dialogue driven.
Yeah.
Like the way we come to know them and the way they come to know each other is through what they say to each other. And it's often banter, like people fall in love sort of through banter and not through kind words. So maybe that has something to do with it. There's just more of a little bit of an edge. I don't know, and they're also usually they're having some sort of intellectual connection, and I think that's really my interest in terms of falling in love. It's intellectual, it's emotional, and it's physical.
Right.
But the physical is usually some sort of like repressed buildup sort of situation.
All right. This is the audience question.
Okay.
It's a variant on what I just asked you, but I think it's still. Writers and Lovers was the first book I read that made things that are usually denigrated as too feminine, girly, etc., like crushes, cute kids, female desire, literary, and literary is underscored quite a lot.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Is that something you set out to do intentionally, or have you ever had pushback? Oh, also, what do the geese mean to you?
Okay, have I ever had pushback? I feel, thank you very much for that, whoever that was. I appreciate it because I mean, first and foremost, I'm interested in literature and I'm interested in, writing literary novels and short stories. I guess the pushback that I feel sometimes is that because it's about women and it's about love and it's about emotion, that sometimes I feel like the literary part can get lost in the discussion. And because I'm just by nature of being a female author, it gets treated differently. I feel like if a man wrote this book, it would be handled very different. I mean, it would be such an interesting experiment. I just feel like people would write about it differently.
Oh, they would. No,
and
without
put
a
it
doubt.
in different categories.
Yeah, without a doubt. I see it all the time. I mean, yes, there are fewer review outlets in this day and age, but especially okay, I say this as a bookseller first, podcaster second, but there are a lot of podcasts out there. Lots of people have opinions. Lots of people buy microphones. And it's interesting how the conversation shifts. And I have in the past listened to many, many interviews of writers, and I'm like, There's a lot of There's a lot of And it's partially, did you read the book? And granted, each one of us brings our own experience to reading a book, right? Like whatever our lives have been, this is what we bring to the book. But then there are times where you hear the question that gets asked, and you're like, no, you didn't read the book. Oh, no, you super wicked did not read the book. Okay, good to know. And I do think, especially when it comes, like, love is hard, right? Like, love is not like a fluffy, bouncy, it can be, but sometimes love is work, right? And I don't think we really acknowledge that.
Well, I also think, what is more important than love? I mean, why do we minimize it or think that it's a women's territory or something
Right.
like that? I mean, you know, I mean, as if like The Great Gatsby or War and Peace isn't about love,
Right.
you know? And I mean, love gets us up in the morning, and love is why we're here. And I mean, most of us, I'm not sure, well, love is why I was actually conceived, but, you know, a lot of us were conceived out of love. And I feel like I've just been running around the country saying, you know, love is what is going to save us. You know, it is what makes us human, and how we're going to retain our humanity and perhaps save our world, you know.
Love can also be a choice. It can be a
Yeah.
really like
It can
love is
be.
a verb, right? It is a very active, well, decision. And the flip side of it can be straight up misogyny, which brings me to in all of your books, including this one, you're able to capture such subtle instances of misogyny. Some of it is not so subtle. In a way I've never seen another writer quite capture. How have you been able to pin down these nuances? Does it come naturally? I've never felt so seen or validated as a woman reading. Sorry, I really am not wearing glasses. These moments are just thinking, I knew I wasn't crazy.
Thank you. Thank you very, very much. I feel like really I'm not thinking about, I don't think in concept. I don't write in concepts. I don't write cerebrally. I'm just writing a woman's experience. And misogyny, you know, is on every page because that is a woman's experience. You know, I mean, I want to say especially in the 80s and whatever, all the time. I mean, you know, I don't think we've made very much advancements in the end. At least kind of inwardly, maybe outwardly, we've done some good stuff. But it is just, I don't even see it until the book is done,
Right.
and then I start to see the layers of it, and it just is how it is.
I always feel like you're eavesdropping. And then I get to eavesdrop through you because these moments I'm just like, oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know that guy. There's a lot of, yeah, I know that guy. But it is so natural. It is, yeah, I just keep coming back to the fact that I feel like you are just noticing what's happening around us and collecting these moments and collecting these stories, and then suddenly I get a really cool thing at the end. That's
Thank
kind
you.
of that's
really
kind of how I
nice.
approach it. And if I think about Euphoria as sort of a hinge moment in your writing career, right? Suddenly it's the 30s, we're doing historical fiction. We are, again, love triangle, great characters. I mean, I didn't feel like I was reading something that was researched, right? Like, you know, when you're reading a book and you're like, oh, hey, I can see the seams. That's cool. I'm glad you did all that homework. Thank you. But, and I say this as a person who, you know, I walk around with crazy amounts of paper and I'm probably using 10% of what's on the crazy amounts of paper. I'm all for grounding yourself in the truth, but sometimes you just need the emotional truth and not the details, right?
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm really mostly interested in that, but the
Right.
details can really support that.
You
when
talk
find the
about
right ones.
riffing in your notebooks for Euphoria and the sense of play you had as you were writing Heart the Lover. And I feel like even when you're writing the serious, somber stuff, there is always that underlying sense of musicology and play and humor that maybe you don't notice right away as you're working, but I don't know. Do you?
I don't know. I maybe some I notice, but I really find that in any situation, especially, you know, part 3 is a heavy situation.
Right.
But there is, in those situations, I've been in that situation many a
Right.
time, and there is so much humor and life and love and everything, craziness and pettiness. Like, you would never think there would be something petty or odd or, you know, completely out of left field in that situation, and
Right.
yet there always is. And I delight in that, you know, in the unexpected and the incongruous, you know.
I just want range, right? I don't want to see stock character. I mean, as much as I'm grumping about Sam sitting over here, like, listen, he's who he is. He can't help himself. But no one is just black or white in your world.
No, I don't want them to be. And right now, I want to really defend Sam.
Okay, feel free, but
I feel like he's getting the short end of the stick right now.
Yes, he is, because I just really, but I'm talking about a fictional character, like he's sitting right over there.
But you have to think about how he was raised.
I do, and I'm still judging him.
I mean,
It's the Boston thing. I try to keep the Boston in a box. It's just sometimes it leaps out, and there's nothing I can do.
But I have Boston too.
I know, but your Boston is less judgy.
I don't know about that.
Couple of craft questions. Actually, many craft questions, but
I love craft questions.
well, also you write very tightly, no matter what. Like, I just feel like you know the rhythms of you on the page. I mean, you've worked with the same editor for years.
I have.
Yay.
All of my books. Elizabeth Schmidt's the best.
But I do think, I mean, there's some writers who just write at 500 plus pages. It's just, that's what they do. You are not that person, but...
No, I mean, the way I think the last 3 books I've gotten through, the last 3 novels, I've gotten through because I tell myself, this does not have to be a long novel. This is a minor novel. I tell myself, this is my minor novel. And so it has to be short. And that's how I get myself through, because, if it was... I couldn't do it otherwise.
Okay, once again, the bookseller's going to jump in and say, just because it's short doesn't mean it's minor. I love a great short novel, man.
I love that too.
A single sitting read, best thing ever. At the book festival in Wimbledon, you showed us your notebook where you write your first drafts and how you used it. I found that very inspiring and useful. Could you talk about that?
My notebooks are my whole first draft exists only in notebooks, and I do that because I took creative writing in high school and for 2 semesters, and we had to have a 3.5-page complete short story on his desk every Monday morning, from I think January to June or something like that was when he taught it, and so I would write my short stories on Sunday morning in a notebook with a pencil, and then I would copy out in pen for the final draft to hand in. And that it has been my process, and it has always been my process. And now I write in a slightly larger notebook, but I have to write my first drafts in pencil, because if I put it on the computer right away, it looks too polished, and it's a trick, and I just have to be very messy. And I say this for the writers and the audience: the most important thing that you can do is get your very overdeveloped critic out of the room, and for the first draft, know. And so, for some reason, writing in pencil in a notebook gets that critic. Like, no one's going to see it. It's my way of just being kind of messy and imperfect, and I just write whatever, and I can write in the margins, and I can draw pictures, and it's just like, it's the way I do my first draft, and then I type it up when I kind of need to reconnect with the material, because I really try every day not to read what I wrote the day before. I just think that's really important if you ever want to finish something, and so I just try to move it along every day, and then sometimes I'm like, well, what is this about, and who are these people? And then I type it up, and I still am working with it and changing it, and it's still a creative process, and I'm still kind of keeping the critic, the judge, the editor at bay. And then when it's all on there, and it's somewhat polished, then I print it out, and then I look at it, and I edit it on the paper. And then I put that into the computer, and I do that about 6 times. And then finally, I send it to my agent, and I give it to my writers group, and I give it to my husband, and then eventually my editor sees it.
You came to Tennant's Harbor a few years ago with magnificent storyboards. Do you still make them?
Yes, and so part of the, I don't call it a storyboard, but in the back of my notebook, I keep like a writing log, and I keep notes, and then when my notes get too crazy, I make a timeline, and I take a regular piece of paper, and I turn it sideways, and I put a line across it, like a number line, like I had in 2nd grade. Remember those number lines? I loved my number line. So it's like that, and then I just write little tiny things that could happen. But those small little emotional things, like I so remember my example for Euphoria was he gives her his dead brother's glasses.
Yep.
Like, and I wrote 40 pages just trying to get to that moment where he gives her his dead brother's glasses because it meant so much to him, and it's such a small little thing, but for me, it was one of the major things that happened in that book, and so those are the kinds of things that, like, little kind of road signs, like this way, mile number 38 or something, and that's kind of how I get through really the first half, and then I don't really do a timeline for the rest. It kind of just gets me going, and then I'm revved up, and I know, or I don't know. With this book, I actually had, when I was desperate to figure out the third part, I wrote 30 pages of her going to Iceland, of which 2 remain.
I love the idea that you can just jettison parts of the story. It's just like, well, it's not in service. It's got to go.
No, it was.
You are really
awful.
not. You are just not a sentimental person. I think I was not totally clear about how.
Oh, this is so interesting.
I'm having
Was
fun
I
with
supposed to be
I
sentimental
don't
about
know.
30 terrible, ridiculous pages?
Well, I didn't
in
read.
Iceland
I
about
didn't read,
elves
Oh,
and
Lord.
sacrifices. I mean, it was
Oh no,
just
no. Okay,
insane.
now I'm. Yes, thank you for killing. Thank you for killing those pages. No, part of it, I think, too, is I get so deep into the lives of your characters, and these are people that, even when they're Sam,
Poor Sam.
listen.
I mean, is Sam not like the best person in?
He is a solid. He is a
part
solid
3?
human. Yes, in part 3, but it takes him how long?
Well,
many? 20
people-
years to get there.
Did you not do things in your 20s that you regret?
Listen, I'm amazed I survived my 20s. That's really. That's straight up. I'm amazed I survived my 20s. Also, what's the trickiest part of the writing and editing process for you, and how do you get through it?
I think the hardest part is about 2/3 of the way through my first draft. I feel like sometimes I describe writing a novel as like you see the house and you walk into the house, and like, their first pages are you're walking into the house and oh, look, there's like the living room and there's the kitchen and then you go upstairs and they're like, oh, the bedrooms, and then you come downstairs and someone shoves you into the basement and like,
Right.
I can't get out. I feel like I've got a little bit of the lay of the land, and then I'm locked in the basement, and I feel really crazy for a little bit of time, and then I just push through. And so that's really for me the very, very hardest part is that 2/3 of the way through in the basement.
I'm glad you got out.
Yeah.
I'm really glad you got out. But how has your process changed since the first book? Has it
I don't
changed?
know
And
if it's
hasn't,
changed
it
that much.
hasn't.
I feel like every novel is its own puzzle to solve, and it doesn't really help that you've solved other puzzles because it's an entirely
Right.
different puzzle.
Right.
What helps is that you know that if you give it enough time and patience, you may be able to solve this puzzle.
Right.
And that's maybe what I've learned.
Okay.
But everyone, it doesn't. I feel like in a lot of ways my process is the same, and it's still hard.
Right. Okay. I know we have a lot of books to sign, so I have not forgotten you folks. I really have not. But I do want to give a couple of minutes, please, to Shirley Hazzard and Jane
Oh.
Gardam.
Yes.
I should spend more time with Shirley, but I got to dip back into The Evening of the Holiday, which is a book you reread quite a lot.
I do.
Quite a lot. And also Dalloway, I think Dalloway and To the Lighthouse are also rereads for you.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
again, tiny, short, tight novels.
Yeah.
What do you get from the rereads?
They just remind me why I write.
Okay.
They're just any page, any chapter.
Right.
Just to me they're perfect,
Yeah.
and they just inspire me.
Okay. Last question.
Okay, I'm ready.
Did you know Heart the Lover was going to make so many people cry?
No, that has been maybe the biggest surprise of all. I mean, when I was writing that section,
Right.
I had like a heaviness, for probably the week that I was writing the first draft. But it wasn't like this big cathartic cry that I'm hearing that people have, and that's because I don't know. I was so in it just with the situation, and I think that when you're crying in that way as a reader, you're crying for a lot of things. You're not crying just about that particular situation. But yeah, I've been so thrilled about that. I mean, it's just really means a lot to me that people cry.
We had a lot of conversations in the office, actually, and there are plenty of us who are not crying. I will admit, I was not weeping. I had a different response, and yes, I know. So I've got a colleague who's, it's the factory preset, man. Like, we just don't cry. But it was funny watching there's so many of us who read it, and we all kind of came to a different thing. I did yell when I got to the last line of Heart the Lover, and I yelled for the right reason, and yes, some of you recognize why I was, and it was a delight. I was very, very, it was very, very satisfying for me. But I understand why people were teary. I totally understand. I love the idea that we could all have a really different response to an amazing experience, right? And that's the thing. I mean, that's the joy that comes with reading you. You get to the end and you're like, what just happened in the best possible way? I'm like, I want all of my books to be like that. Why can't everything be like this? So this is where I say, Lily King, thank you so much for joining us on Poured Over.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for listening. Poured Over is a Barnes & Noble production. To help other readers find us, please rate and review the show wherever you listen to podcasts.